A night in with MauLer and the drinker, getting trashed with the web screen thinkers. A cheap night cause I'm feeling kinda thrifty, got a 10-pack of beers and a bottle of whiskey. Hop off the cork, have a glass of wine, plus they'll say, I'll be fine. Trouble walking in a straight line, but pour me a Pinot Noir. It's open bar with our hosts, MauLer and the critical drinker.
Whoops. I'm going to try this one again.
When were you going to tell me you switched hosts?
Absolute clockwork, man. I've just been clicking all kinds of crazy buttons on StreamYard here. You think
like, why are we in the void as well? Temporarily.
Yeah. Well, look, I can add it. I can take it away. Look at that. Oh no!
Oh my God, it's like magic.
Should we go to Middle Earth? We can do that. Like, there we go. Yeah, we're taking a journey into the world of Resident Evil now. There. Wow.
Oh yeah. All right.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, let's get back to the open bar. There we go. Everything's fine. This was definitely planned, everyone. Don't worry. Yeah. How are you, MauLer? How's everyone?
Good. Working. Checking out stuff. Rewatched fully all of Daredevil and Defenders. Ready for Born Again.
Why did you watch Defenders?
I've never seen it. And unfortunately, a lot of Daredevil stuff happens in that that I had never seen before. He's the best part of that show, easily.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, we'll get into talking about all of that. But we're here. I've got I've got one of the critical doggos here. Look, Lara might be dead. I'm not sure. But yeah, there is a dog back there. So it's been a while since she's been on a live stream, so it's nice to have her here again. Anyway, as we normally do with times like this, you want to hear some pointless facts about the year of our Lord 1933? In this case,
pointless facts. They're going to be incredible.
Well, you know what? I'm bringing knowledge to the masses here, and I'm educating people. So there's stuff here I didn't even know. Like, for example, the first ever singing telegram was delivered in New York City, and truly, the world has never been the same since then. Also, the original King Kong film premiered, which is kind of neat. It's like pretty much one of the most iconic movies of all time, so that's nice. You also got the first ever drive-in movie theater, which opened in New Jersey, of all places. Why would you do that? Well. Don't know. The game Monopoly was developed and released in that year as well, which they've announced they're making a movie for, I believe. Yeah.
Margot Robbie is executive producing, I think.
Oh, it's gonna be pure class then, isn't it?
I don't even. It's like, what? You're like, yep, let's do it.
Also, the first ever Krispy Kreme donuts was opened in Nashville, Tennessee, which I think is fantastic. A lot of people owe their massively swollen flesh prisons to that franchise. So yeah, well done, guys. You're helping to make the nation fatter. And they've made their way over to Britain as well, so we can't exactly escape it either. But
yeah. We're not a thin country.
We are not, no, especially not in Scotland. Also, in this year, Franklin Roosevelt escaped assassination. So apparently, the assassin, or the would-be assassin, was Giuseppe Zangara. As he was about to shoot Roosevelt, he was struck by a woman with her purse, and instead ended up wounding the mayor of Chicago instead. But Roosevelt escaped. So, damn, that woman was just some goddamn hero right there. Just stepped in, did what had to be done.
Yeah.
Also, I like this one. The film Ecstasy premiered in Czechoslovakia, but it was hampered in terms of its foreign distribution because the actress Hedy Lamarr was seen naked in it, which was a big no-no back in 1933.
My goodness.
Women actually got naked in films. Can you believe it?
A depravity.
I know. Yeah, she was like the Sydney Sweeney of her day, I guess. Yeah, and in terms of famous births as well, this is kind of interesting. Gene Wilder, Michael Caine, Roman Polanski, Fred Willard, and Tom Skerritt were all born in 1933.
Hey, Fred Willard. I always found him fun when he popped up.
He was great. Tom Skerritt, he was Dallas in Alien. He was Viper in Top Gun. Quite an interesting career that man's had. Also, Yoko Ono was born that year. Boo!
Synonymous with ruining things.
Yeah, you stopped the Beatles getting back together, you bitch.
How dare you?
Anyway, well, that's our pointless facts for the year. So there it is. You've learned something, everyone, courtesy of the drinker. Anyway, let's bring in our panel so they can do stuff, or we can do stuff to them. It's like, they're just my playthings, really. Cynic, who became my co-host for about 3 seconds. So. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good, man. And we've also got the little Platoon. Welcome, sir.
Hello.
Good to have you back again. It's nice to have you here.
Yeah, good to be here.
Beat up episode 59 with our guests MauLer and the Critical Drinker.
Yes, indeed.
And half of EFAP is welcoming Drinker and Movie Cynic. There's a lot of cross-pollination going on here.
Yeah,
crisis of
We're like
podcasts. That's what it is. It's the big crossover event everyone's been waiting for.
We are a big old incestuous family here on YouTube, and being Scottish, I can totally identify with that. So my family tree is just like a straight line. It just keeps going down.
Like a big circle.
Anyway, gentlemen, I think we've all seen Daredevil Born Again, or at least the first 2 episodes of it. And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it so far. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that I liked it for the most part. I think it's probably the best Marvel TV show that Disney have put out, which I know is an extremely low bar, but still, it's something. And I think it's a half-decent approximation of what the Netflix show originally was. They have definitely made some concessions to what modern Marvel is. I noticed that Karen was quite quickly shuffled out of this and replaced with someone far more diverse. Foggy was shuffled out for reasons that we'll get into shortly, again in favor of someone more diverse. And Fisk is now going for marriage therapy, which I'm not entirely sure why that's come about, but we'll talk about that more shortly, I'm sure. But overall, it could have been way, way worse, and I didn't hate it. So that's my ringing endorsement so far. MauLer's about to say something probably a bit different, I suspect.
Absolutely. Here we go again. Sort of feeling I've got right now of just, I thought it was piss poor crap.
Don't hold back, MauLer.
After just coming off rewatching seasons 1, 2, 3, and Defenders, ignore the Defenders part. I've rewatched it for information. It's not what I'm talking about when I say seasons 1, 2, and 3 are bitchin'. They've got so much about them that are incredibly enjoyable. What an awesome thing that got made for loads of different reasons. I love just how much care and effort was given to all aspects of filmmaking and storytelling, and I wish it was something close to a blueprint or a standard that we could have gotten more of. This is a hollow, weightless photocopy that's desperately trying to skinwalk as the show that came before it. I'm less inclined to believe that the best things in this are a result of them trying to give the fans what they want, and more a result of desperately trying to look like the thing the fans want. And it'll work for a little bit, especially prompted by Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio's performances. But I don't think this is going to last. It's already coming apart at the seams. The more you think about everything that's happened, the more you look at each of the fight scenes, the more you compare the cinematography, the more you look at the editing. This thing is kind of gross, and it's not going to last very long. It's just Drinker is correct. It is better than almost, I think, every other Marvel TV show, which means nothing at all. It's just like the lowest fucking bar in history. So yeah, I don't know. That's me again. I didn't like it. I thought it was crap.
Cynic, what did you think?
I thought it was just okay. It's definitely not great by any measure. I didn't think it was as bad as MauLer thinks, but we're only 2 episodes deep, so I'm willing to give it some benefit of the doubt. But it's because it's an MCU product that I'm actually really weary about it and really worried. It starts off with the most banging 15 minutes of any Marvel show, that's for sure. Like you said, it's a low bar, but it really grabbed me. But I'm super nervous about the fact that it can actually follow through with what that first 15 minutes does. I'm sure we'll get into spoilers, so I won't say just yet. I'll wait until you break the seal. but it's going to need an incredible amount of weight to be carried. And so far, it's like the first 15 minutes happened, and you can tell it was almost like a reshoot, like that was part of the reshoots, and then we just go off in another direction. So it's episode 1 and 2 are like bookended by really interesting things that feel nothing like the rest of the show. So cautiously optimistic, but we got a long ways to go. So
Okay. And Platoon, what do you think?
I'm going to be cautiously pessimistic. Just to keep it balanced. We've got hate, we've got kind of like, and we've got kind of not like. Because I had never seen any of the original Daredevil run until this week, because I started watching it obviously to prepare for this. So I've managed to kind of second monitor all 3 seasons, and I thought, well, okay, I'm going to be prepared to withhold a lot of my major judgments on this show until I've had a chance to really properly and closely watch the first 3 seasons. However, having now seen episodes 1 and 2 of Born Again, the more I remember about the first 3 seasons, the less about Born Again makes sense, which is kind of the opposite of the way I was hoping it was going to be. There's characters who are in positions I don't think they really should be in. Decisions are made which I don't think are particularly supportable. A certain big event happens right at the beginning, which I know is kind of couched in a big high-octane fight scene, but it just sort of read to me as what we're doing quite transparently is shuffling the deck. We have to give a motive for a fairly big switch in character position, which is kind of tied to character motive. That was quite obviously what they were doing, and I think it did a disservice to the person who was used to achieve that.
Yes.
So I don't know. There's stuff in it I do like. As you said, like it is the best of the Marvel shows, but that is the lowest bar. It's part of the really cunning plan they have, which is to lower the bar to the floor, which means any minor improvement is hailed as a success. I don't know. It's a little bit clunky for me at the moment, and I'm slightly concerned that the longer it goes and the more it has to grapple with all of its own canon and the canons of all the other shows and the movies that may or may not intersect, the messier it will be rather than the cleaner. So I'm not going to damn it completely yet. I'm just pessimistic.
Okay. No, I think that's fair. And this is where I think we have to make people aware in chat that in order to discuss this in a little bit more depth, we're probably going to have to spoil it, because there's really no way around it. There's a lot of stuff that happens in these first 2 episodes that's a little bit spoilerific. So if you really don't know, if you don't want to know what happens, I suggest you maybe do something else right now, or put us on mute or something.
The road.
Yeah, exactly. Because we I guess we have to talk about what happens in the first 15 minutes of episode 1. So consider yourselves warned. Foggy gets killed, and as Platoon mentioned there, it does feel like a little bit of a cheap reason for reshuffling the deck in terms of characters, in terms of our major players. And it's a bit sad that like he makes his debut on the Disney Plus version of Daredevil. He's in it for about 2 minutes and then he's just dead. He doesn't get a chance to do anything really.
It was funny as well, because remember reading the articles that were coming out where they said, oh yeah, we made a decision and none of us are sure it was the right decision, but we had to make that decision. I read those before I started watching season 1, and then I went to season 1 of like the original run, and as soon as I saw episode 1, I said, oh, they're going to kill him. It's like, because there's a trope in writing. The save the cat is a trope you use if you want to make people seem heroic and you want to get people in the fields, and the antithesis of that trope is like, kill the dog. And he's as close to a fluffy little dog as Daredevil had. So they killed him because that's a shortcut to feels, and it's very quickly going to establish the characters now profoundly changed in their outlook and their understanding of the world and what they're prepared to do. And I guess they figured that he'd maybe run out of story, so that was the choice they'd made. But then, of course, that's deployed in order to justify Matt Murdock not particularly being Daredevil at all for any of these first 2 episodes. He's kind of turned his back on his whole superhero guise, seemingly sort of out of a promise it was implied that he'd made to Foggy. Was that a line of dialogue? But like, because Foggy's got like this witness embedded in his own apartment, but he hasn't told anyone because he didn't want to give Matt an excuse to be a vigilante again. Did I interpret that correctly?
Is completely fucked. And to be honest with you, I don't think anybody's tracking the full continuity. So post season 3, Daredevil is back, and then we see him in She-Hulk, and then we see him in Echo. And then this is set soon after that and then we skip forward 1 year to be up to the present, meaning he's been Daredevil consistently. Foggy was never fully on board with the antics of Daredevil, but he would never have hidden that the client he's got related to this current case that's incredibly sensitive and important is currently being hunted, and he's trying to protect him in his own apartment and not tell Matt. That makes no fucking sense at all. The only reason that happens is to get them all out on the street to have that reveal and to give this wacky excuse of, I didn't want to give you an excuse to be dead. I was like, he's been Daredevil for like fucking close to a decade now.
That was what I was
Off-screen.
getting at. That was the slightly. I mean, maybe they will explain at some point later in the show that this is all a twist and there's some kind of setup involved and it was all part of a grander plan or a conspiracy or something. But that was one of the first things that bumped me was that, okay, wait, why are you now hiding things from your best friend who you know is basically a superhero? And I've tried to scan back through seasons 1, 2, 3 to find out if there was any reason he would have done that, and I sort of came up short. So I wasn't sure if that was me misunderstanding or if it was just a bit broken.
I think what it does
really
is it
hard to track.
hides. Yeah, it hides that really damning character decision in a big, bombastic action scene that's very reminiscent of the first season of Daredevil. That's almost like stops you from thinking about it too deeply. It's like, wow, there's so much else going on here. I'm not going to consider this too much. And then boom, Foggy's dead. And then boom, we've skipped forward a year. And then boom, a whole bunch of other stuff's happening. And let's just move on from it.
Yeah,
That
that's why it
seems to be the
feels
thinking
like so choppy, and I was super confused because I went back and watched recaps because it's been 7 years, so I watched like 3 or 4 different recaps to try and get the full story of season 1 through 3. And I do remember so Bullseye being in season 3, but the fact that he kills Foggy and Daredevil doesn't really pursue anything, because I thought we left off season 3 where they teamed up against the Kingpin. Bullseye had his spine broken, and now Daredevil can throw someone off a roof 70 feet. The guy doesn't die, and he doesn't follow up or follow through or nothing.
They definitely did not team up. That was a 3-on-3 finale fight in season 3. It's a very, very good one.
Did me wrong.
They're all angry at each other, sort of thing. But Kingpin does break his spine, and then he gets his spine surgery. And I guess over the years, he's managed to make a full recovery back to being super angry.
Those AI recaps, damn it.
Yeah, never trust them. But yeah, as First Last is pointing out here, without Foggy's idealistic outlook, Matt would just blackpill and you'd go full-time Daredevil. And I think that's the point. Like, he's the angel on his shoulder, isn't he? He's the guy who tries to see the good in people and humanity, and it helps to balance out Matt.
Certainly is somewhat a heart of the team where you might have expected it to be Karen. In reality, when you watch the show, it's definitely Foggy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still back at essentially like, yeah, this was a cheap shot, and all of the benefit comes from work that isn't theirs. Like, him dying is after a handful of some really shit dialogue, man. Like the exposition was hurting, where they have like meta lines. The first thing you hear properly from them is, I like to think we've evolved. Hell's Kitchen nostalgia's running pretty thin with you guys. Not nostalgia, reverence for the past and hope for the future. I was like,
it's so meta. It's just like, like you say, it almost hurts. It's like, okay, we get it. You're trying to honor the past and move forward into the future. Like, we get you.
It was already so strange where I was seeing them into the bar, and I already knew because I'd seen it a little bit later than everybody else, so I knew that Foggy was going to be dying. So I was like, every line here is going to matter significantly to how they're telling the story. And we spend a not so insignificant amount of time with 2 people I've never met before, discovering why one of them is retiring from the police. I was like, okay. And why the other one is interested in why Foggy is no longer with the law firm he was with in season 3. And now he decided to pursue the Murdoch, Nelson and Page stuff, which I was like, that's all. I know all of that from season 3. We did all of that. It ends with them starting that. Why are we doing this?
Well, again, there's going to be a lot of people watching this that haven't seen the original show.
Why would you need that? Foggy's about to die.
Yeah, but they're trying to, like, I guess what they're trying to do is like acknowledge, yes, there was another show. this world, these characters do exist already. Here's a bunch of stuff that's happened, and this is where they're at right now.
When you're killing someone, the context you need immediately for anyone who hasn't seen the past stuff is why these people care about each other. And Foggy barely says a fucking line to Matt and Karen in that bar.
Yep. This is why I think some of this is reshoots, which is
No,
why
a
it's so
lot-
choppy.
The book.
I'm not hugely interested in talking about like how it's a mess because of these meta reasons. I'm just like, can we just talk about what it is though? Because
No, sure. Like I think it's sometimes interesting to speculate on the reasons why it ended up the way it did.
I think there is a broader, because like that clunky exposition thing and trying to account for past shows for people who may or may not have seen them is a problem that does, I think, recur a couple of times across these two episodes. So you have passing references to the events of Hawkeye, and you have passing references to the events of Echo. I think it comes from the fact that they're not entirely sure how to account as writers for the fact that some of the audience will be completely clued into a huge story, and a large part of the audience won't have a clue what we're talking about. So when you might get a line where someone says to Kingpin, "You left the bed that I sat with you by for months while you recovered," most of the audience will probably think, "What? Recovered in a bed? Wait, I thought at the end of Daredevil season 3 you were in prison. When did you get out and go to hospital? What were you recovering from? You got shot in the head? Who by?" And then the same thing with him going and trying to, raise a protege and things like that, which is, I think is just, like I say, it's a function of the writers having to account for too broad an audience in terms of the amount of foreknowledge people bring in, which is always difficult, but you do need to commit to one approach. Either trust the audience or don't trust them, but don't go in between.
I really respect the way it dealt with the events of Echo, and that way of dealing with it was pure mockery.
Yeah,
where
they
they
missed
just
it completely.
they were when they talked about, I suppose it's Hawkeye / Echo, where it's like you had a protege, she shot you in the face, and then they both just laugh about it and then move on. It's like, wasn't that all fucking retarded? Let's not pretend. Let's not pretend that that's even vaguely relevant now.
I would have preferred there was no reference to it whatsoever.
I know, but when it's part of the MCU, you've got to account for it as much as
the MCU is
fucking
famous
horrible.
for not referencing any of its continuity. We don't get this show is already a good example of that. They pretend like they're not in a world. Do you remember the in episode 2, I think is near the opening, Fisk says we can't have a guy in horns, a guy in spider outfit, and a guy with a skull on his chest, like going around killing people. That's fucked up. And it's like, you're in a world where those kinds of people saved you from an army of space aliens trying to kill like half the universe. You can't be saying this shit. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, this is why the original show struck that perfect balance, because it vaguely referenced the events of the Avengers with like the sky falling and stuff, and then just said, right, but we're not really doing that anymore. Like, this is much more low-level human stuff going on.
If I were them, I probably would have tried to stay away just completely from the MCU. But for some reason, they're going to, I say for some reason, I know why. They're going to pick and choose what's useful to them to help out their story, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a bit of cowardice. You're going to have to do better than that. And Echo, you've got like the hopeful perspective on it. For me, I'm more so like, there you go. The continuity's in. They're making sure that Echo did happen and it's a part of this story. And she did actually shoot him in the face and he survived because obviously they didn't want to fucking kill Kingpin. That was a huge mistake if ever they considered doing that.
Clue me in as well, because you've rewatched the original show quite recently. Was Vanessa ever like a full-on crime lord who was just like running Fisk's business?
Near the end of season 3, she starts to get invested in the big change that happens is she goes from being a girl he's interested in and they are together and there's a romance between them, and that he's trying to keep the business from her because he thinks if she finds out about it, she'll leave him. The twist, somewhat, or the subversion, is she finds out near the end of season 3 and you find out she's actually in support of him. She's like, you should kill the people who are threats to you. You should blah, blah, blah. Never did I get the impression that she was going to be making the business thrive to the point of more profit than Kingpin ever did. That was cringe.
Of course you know why they did it that way. MCU. Of course you know. Yeah, exactly.
Such
they
an
had to have her
undermining
take over. It makes him seem kind of weird and needy and like a bit pathetic when he comes back. And it's like, you get the impression from her. It's like, I don't need him anymore. Like I've taken over the business. I'm doing better than he ever did. And like, I don't even know if I want him to come back at this point. And I just thought that really is a switch in the dynamics of their relationship, because I got the impression, as you've described it as well, like from the original show, she was 100% in love with him, and to the extent that she was even willing to support him in doing the shit that he has to do as a criminal.
Oh yeah, I already
kingpin.
hate their dynamic in this new one. I don't know what they're doing. They've
You don't
fucked with
like
it completely.
therapy?
Oh gee, Kingpin
God.
and Vanessa in couples therapy.
Yeah.
What more could you ask for,
This
fellas?
is the writers projecting all their fucking emotional bullshit onto these characters.
And
What
it shouldn't
I'm
have to happen either, should it? Because didn't the ending of Echo magically cures Kingpin of all his trauma with her Native American magic? So
Oh my
really, like,
but,
it
God.
shouldn't even
but
be
not
there.
relationship problems.
Oh
though.
fuck,
This is
not
what
the
I mean
relationship
about-
problems.
I would have
She-
pretended that shit was never canon, because now that it is, that means that happened. That means that he's supposed to be like a. Is that what they're trying to argue? That's why he's a more calmed down person, thanks to Echo giving him therapy,
I
And
don't
yet
know
he's
if
still
that's what
bad.
they are
magic
arguing.
therapy.
Yeah.
So a big problem for me is the time skip. We can talk a bit about the nature of the death and the fight scene to follow, but by skipping time, we get told about what happened as a result, and this could be arguably spoilers for literally years from now or 2 years from now, whenever the new show comes out. But I mean, we got to speculate, and it's a part of analysis. According to the fans of the comics and just knowledge in general, Foggy has been known to fake his death. That's a thing. And the street number they have relates to a comic number where that happens. And so this
Right.
is supposed to be implied that it's all an Easter egg, that Foggy is not dead, that this is all, for that, which I think is going to be pretty catastrophic for several reasons, including but not limited to, that means Bullseye failed to kill him, or that he deliberately only came across as though he was kind of killing him, but didn't actually. And then why would Foggy not reveal that for a year? What crazy plot line are they going to unveil that would make that make sense? And
No,
then, of course,
it's because he's a Skrull, MauLer.
the other
Really?
problem is that we got all of the consequences of his death, whether or not it's faked, and we didn't see any of them. We only get told about them, right?
Mhm.
So we don't see Matt having to come to terms with his heart it's Marvel. They'll just make up whatever. He took a fucking injection that made his heart stop.
Yeah, Nick Fury did that
Whatever.
in Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
so-
exactly.
Yes.
This fucking
This
franchise,
sucks,
man.
but that's apparently what we're on our way for. So anyway, we don't see Matt dealing with the death of Foggy like over several episodes, the weight that would have given, and the rage and the guilt, whatever have you. We don't see him pursuing Dex over why. Like, why did you do this? Post season 3, Dex should be going after Kingpin, not Daredevil, not Foggy of all
that's what I was
people.
so
Like,
confused about.
I would have loved to have seen the scenes where he tries to find that out, but we've apparently skipped over that too. I don't know if we're eventually going to get that a year later, but that would be weird. We didn't see him give up Daredevil. We didn't watch that process. We didn't see him break up his relationship and make it fall apart with Karen. We didn't see the crisis you would have experienced, like reconciling what did happen with what should have happened, and who Dex is, and whether or not you should have killed him before, or how this has affected his ultimate rules. That's what season 1, 2, and 3 cover in depth. And this show is just like, boom, he killed him. You're like, whoa. And it's like, that's no more Daredevil. It's like, you can't do that in the first 10 minutes. It's not your payoff. You have to build it.
Yeah,
And
it's
on
like
top of
they
that,
like
Foggy's family don't get this information from Matt. We don't get to see that scene. We don't get the supporting cast, which includes a lot of characters I want to bring up later, because I'm kind of annoyed about this, that they've all been left out. There's no mention of Marcy. That was Foggy's girlfriend, near wife, by the end of season 3. She's just gone. And it's like, yeah, a lot of time's passed. Like, what's with this disrespect, man? And like,
Yeah,
all
it's
of
so
this
bizarre.
is skipped over, wiped out. We just get told a series of bullet points about how it happened. And then we spend most of the episode with Matt talking to people we've never met before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
That's
they
the
simultaneously want to like take out all of the like they need to bring back all the characters from season 1 through 3 so that they can immediately discard them and get to the characters that they want to replace them with, these new side characters. And
Yep.
I've heard from people that have finished episodes 1 through 9 that the characterization, like, it's really not there. They're just thinly written characters, and they're replacing these very substantial side characters instead.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, so
It's
there
like-
you go.
Because this is the thing. I can get over killing Foggy. I can even get over doing it really fast. But you cannot take away all of those storytelling payoffs and then throw all of those characters that the 3 seasons built up away in favor of your new crap ones.
It does feel quite distinctly like there's almost an entire season's worth of material condensed into the first 15 minutes. And even into the first episode, because you've got these massive things that are occurring. The two big ones and the two major character journeys you've got going through. You have Foggy's. Well, you lead up to Foggy's death, and Matt swears off Daredevil as a response because he seemingly broke the rule he used to have about not killing people by trying, although failing to kill someone. And on the other side of things, you've got Kingpin, who is now out of prison, running for mayor of New York, which I'm sure we'll come back to, and being elected mayor of New York as well. And this all takes place very, very quickly. All things basically within the first episode. I almost think that it would have been way better to have this being the first season's worth of story. It culminates with Foggy's death. It culminates with Kingpin being made mayor of New York, because then you have all of the story time a season would allow you to do to deal with all the characters you're bringing through, to give them the proper send-off, to properly establish and explain how these events are impacting people, and maybe to add a little bit of badly lacking sense into the whole Kingpin becomes mayor thing, because that's another distinctly unusual turn of events, which I can't really see happening in the real world, but there we are.
Do you think there's something in this about like having a convicted felon running for a public office and winning it on a populist platform? Do you think the writers were trying to say something there in their subtle way?
I wondered that, but I heard that this is from a 2015 comic book run before like Trump even was anticipated to win. So I want to give it the benefit of the doubt and say no, but that doesn't mean they can't take a story from 2015 and work it into current world politics at all.
You can add that color, definitely. I mean, I think season 3 of Daredevil did that to an extent. You started to see the emergence of terms like fake news and things like that, and the news talking about the growth of populist candidates, and even in this season as well, you have a couple of like news montages where they talk to the prospective voters for and against Kingpin, which feel very appropriate to the modern day. You have the enlightened people who say, well, he's a thug and he's a criminal and you should never elect a person like that. And then you have Kingpin's base, who are like all these slack-jawed, politely put morons who say, well, I think it's cool that he once smashed a guy's head in with a car door. I'd like to see that. So he's got my vote, because that's how you do serious politics, in-world politics in Marvel. If that's what your opinion of populist candidates is, you'll just vote for anyone who's tough, and that seems to be their opinion. So it might be an older story, but I think they probably updated it for color, definitely.
Mayor Fisk is a fun idea. There's plenty you can do with it for allegory, and there's lots of storylines we're going to see happen now, but it is not possible in what's season 4 of this universe. He very publicly faced enormous disgraces, specifically involving corruption and all of the death of institutions that he was behind. And again, anyone who rewatches season 3, just watch all that and then try and convince me that man would ever be fucking hired as mayor. There's no way in hell. He hired an FBI agent, right? That'd be Bullseye, like fucking corrupted and turned him into an imposter Daredevil to destroy the reputation of vigilantism, and killed countless innocent people, including a priest in a church. This kind of shit, like, you're really going to tell me that people will be like, you know what, this guy is good when it comes to vigilantes. Yes, I believe this guy.
It falls right in line with Brave New World's worldview, though, because Bucky is now a congressman, or about to be one.
True.
So it's right in line with the MCU's politics, I suppose.
Well, this is what I mean. It feels par for the course for me. Like, all of this writing is nonsense. But they don't want to have to work for it. They're like, fuck you, we're going. A year went past. It all happened in the skipped year. Okay, anything you need to have happen was in there.
I think the work needs to be put in order to justify. Because like you say, there are really interesting things you could do, but you can't just have them happen with no setup and no lead in. Because if you don't answer any of these questions, then the whole thing starts to feel completely implausible. And it reflects in the writing as well. So you'll get a beat in, I think it's episode 2 of Born Again, where he goes to the funeral of an NYPD cop. On the way there, he's told, if you lose the police, you'll lose the city. And then he gets there and is told by the police, well, of course, we never supported you because you killed loads of our officers in seasons 1 through 3. In which case, he's already lost the support of the people that he can't lose the support of, but he became there anyway because the show can't really explain it. The same problem occurs with the place of vigilantes in the MCU. You've got Kingpin saying, we need to outlaw vigilantes, of course, despite the fact that superheroes wearing capes have saved the city. But his support base is all people who should support vigilantes, because the reason they like him is that he is the closest thing to a vigilante running for office, because he's a person who just gets shit done and doesn't care about rules or procedures. So the internal politics don't really add up, whatever color they're trying to add for the real world. there's that inconsistency, which you could have turned into an intriguing story if you'd had, say, Kingpin being the one subtly trying to find a way to do away with vigilantes who are threats to him by, say, trying to register them, which is what one of his rivals for the office tries to do. Have him like seeming to be on their side, which is the reason he appeals to people, but in secret, like he did through seasons 1 through 3, manipulating the system to remove his opposition. That seems like a more believable and interesting use of his character on his ascent to mayor. But because we do skip the entire year of his campaign, we don't get any of that. We just have to believe that all these contradictory things coexist.
There's an interesting one here as well. Born Again's giving off too many Force Awakens vibes, luring the audience with legacy characters only to rip them away in favor of the new crew.
At least we got the 3 of them on screen together in this one. That's an improvement.
Speaking of contradictory things too, can I just skip ahead to the fact that like at the end of episode 2, he gets in because the 2 episodes are kind of bookended by violence, and that's the only time you really see any action necessarily. And at the end of episode 2, he is tell me if I'm wrong, but he murders another guy, like straight up murders that guy. And I was like, I thought we were just talking about how this motherfucker doesn't kill anybody, and he just lucks out every time because he throws a guy off 70-story roof.
I mean, to be fair, he looked angry about it at the end of the episode because he had a good scream. So
I thought it was just like, oh, I returned to violence.
When I saw it, I was like, yeah, that dude's dead. But I think the standard defense would be, no, he's made it, and Matt knows because Matt knows the kind of damage he used to do to people. Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. He survived. And it's like, okay.
Well, it just feels like, again, another missing beat, because what I thought they were trying to go for, both with him throwing the guy off the roof and then seemingly breaking a guy's neck, was, without explicitly saying it, this is why he's no longer Daredevil, because he no longer is able to avoid killing people. Like, he's let that anger overtake him, so he doesn't trust himself to be the vigilante he used to be anymore. I thought that was what they were trying to do, but because, again, we jump forward an entire year, we don't really see him grappling with it. It's not voiced, at least in the first 2 episodes. I'm not sure that's what they're doing. That was just my read of it, but it might be trying to impute sense where it doesn't exist.
There are some lines to imply, but like that's my big gripe I have, is not watching him go through that process, because this is huge, and he's given up being Daredevil probably like enough times now in the show's history. I don't know how many people even saw he gave it up in Defenders, and then he got it back. He gave it up arguably temporarily because he was super injured in the beginning of Daredevil season 3, but that one was like the best handling as far as I'm concerned, because he was going through shit tons in that season of like existential crisis and his faith and everything. This I don't buy this at all. It's like, if it weren't for him and what happened in that whole opening sequence, so many more people would have died. And then he hears like the screams for help at night whenever he's sleeping, whenever he's walking around in his apartment. The idea that you're going to convince me Matt Murdock would be like, well, I can't help any of them.
What can you do?
This is what happens in Defenders, is he hears that kind of shit, and then he's eventually like, I can't resist, I've got to go help. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. It just I
feel as well what they could have played with is the fact that, like, if he hasn't been Daredevil for a year or so he hasn't been fighting, he hasn't been training, he hasn't been doing any of that stuff, like the fact that he would just be not as sharp as he used to be because he hasn't been in that world for a long time. But again, like, it's just shown that he's just as lethal as he's always been, even though he's done no training for like over a year.
Oh yeah,
I feel like that's something he could have grappled with as well, but apparently not.
Talk about the fights.
You can talk about anything you want here, MauLer. It's a safe space.
Well, hopefully we could start with the fight at the end of episode 2 was so fucking hideously choppy. If you rewatch it, some of this shit is so impossible to track. I've seen the discussion online, and I tend to agree with some of the different ideas about it, which is that you can have quick cuts, you can have what you could consider choppy editing, but you've got to be able to track the action. And when you're flipping points of view and skipping pieces of time, wasn't it like Jackie Chan who said, like, when you switch an angle, you want to roll back just a split second so that everything flows better?
Yes.
Something I didn't see respected at all in this sequence. And I was just watching it like, what the fuck am I looking at? Like, it was just like, cut, they're dead. And it was just like, okay. And on this note, by the way, a lot of people have been making fun of the choppy action and shitty editing for the fights that are not the one. We'll talk about that in a second. And I've already seen the defense if you watch the originals, they're just as bad. Like in season 1, 2, and 3.
Literally a show
choppy.
famous for its amazing fight sequences.
Well, that's the thing. He's getting fucking clowned on. I just said, like, it's funny we've reached the old stuff is bad too excuse already, because they do it with Star Wars all the fucking time. Whenever something new comes out that's shit, they'll be like, oh, the old ones did this shittily too. And the guy responded to me. I thought you guys would find this funny. He said, shut the fuck up, MauLer. You're not invited. And someone said, what do you mean he's not invited? And he said, nobody's asking for a bigoted grifter's fuck-ass opinion.
There you go. Fucking checkmate, sir. That's you. That's you told.
Got you.
Certainly. So I've not got much hope for the sort of standard fights, as long as I can get some entertainment out of the brutality of them and Charlie Cox's acting, which is fantastic. Do not
Yes, it is.
in any way mistake me on that. But hey, you know what? Let's talk about Daredevil arriving on the scene, suiting up and heading into the fight, all being a rubber CGI man.
Yeah,
That
the
was
CGI
fucking
looks like
sad.
shit.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that.
It reminded me
Because-
of the Ben Affleck Daredevil CGI.
Ooh.
Ass.
Yeah.
It was ass. And again, I just came off rewatching the whole 3 seasons, and so much of it is practical, if not like so much of it in the sense that you expect to see it every single time. So watching him weightlessly, rubbly wobble around and all these, I was just like, ugh.
It's
like,
yeah,
you
it's
can make
almost
it
like
as dark
now.
as you want. It doesn't save it.
Yeah, it's almost like now they're thinking, well, we're Marvel. Like CGI is just what we do. Like, why would we have an actual person do a fight scene when we can just CGI the thing?
See,
Like,
I
it's hard for them
thought
to
I
break
was
out of
sick
that.
of the whole CGI thing, and I hadn't realized how sick of it I was until I went back and watched seasons 1 to 3. It was so nice not seeing that horrible sheen on everything and nothing looking like it was made of rubber. And then I think it was probably exceptionally bad in a couple of moments in Born Again. There's the subway train bit, which is very janky, and as mentioned, there's the CGI character which looks crap. But if you didn't need to do it when you had a smaller budget and consequently it looked better and the action scenes were just on the whole more sensible, why would you go and add that? Do they think that it makes it more flashy, more extreme, more superheroic? Is that the motive? Because it didn't really come across that way.
They're just, their mindset seems to be like, we need to have him be more than just human. He needs to do things that are beyond the capabilities of like a regular old human. He has to be faster, stronger, do crazy shit. We don't need that. We just need him to be a regular tough guy who gets through grit and determination. That's more than enough. It was more than
they're
enough in the original show.
MCU-ifying this guy, and the CGI really struck me immediately when Bullseye throws that gas canister into the bar.
Oh god,
And I
they
was
couldn't
like,
get a gas
compositing looks
canister.
so fucking bad.
Yeah. And like
Of all
there are sequences where he runs across rooftops. There's one in season 2 that is obviously more of it is a stunt double, but it's okay because you see him from the back and you get to be real. But watching the Rubber Man run across a dark rooftop, I'm just like, I'm not feeling any of this. It's just, whatever. And then when they start fighting in the room with the gas coming up, it's like, oh, it's so obvious that they're not there and that the gas is trying to hide just how video gamey they look, which is offensive to video games at this point. I shouldn't even say that.
Yeah, I mean, they use mocap, so like at least there's a degree of realism there.
The one that hit really bad to me was when they get to the top in their fight and they have a little bit of a punch back and forth before coming to the end of the fight, and their CG still. I couldn't believe it. I was like, guys, you don't have to make them CG now, please.
This is
Obviously
why I
the jump
described
he
it
does
as,
up, because it's an inhuman jump. They have to CG him, which is like, that should be a clue that he shouldn't be doing jumps like that because he's Daredevil. He's not fucking Superman. Like,
this is why I described it as like the Disney equivalent or the Disney approximation of the original Daredevil show. It's like they have to still make all these stupid concessions to the modern style of filmmaking that they insist upon, and it's like their version of it. It's sad that that's what we've ended up with, and ironically, it's still better than anything else that they've made.
I think this is okay to because I still held to the fact that I think it's okay because I really liked these characters. As soon as they came on screen again, I was like, oh yeah, it quickly reminded me why I enjoyed the first 3
but
seasons
is that
so much.
this show or the prior seasons worked.
Well, right. It's living off of the goodwill of that, I think. And that's why I said I was being cautious about it, because I could see that drying up really fast over 9 episodes of this.
Can I ask you guys as well about the White Tiger gentleman?
Oh,
Mhm.
right.
yeah.
So the vigilante that kills the cop guy in the subway fight. Like, was he ever mentioned before in Daredevil? Is he like some new addition? Because everyone treats him as if he's a thing that's well established, and I'm like, where did you come from?
We haven't seen him
don't-
in the prior 3 seasons, but yeah,
Right.
he's been vigilanteing for some time, I guess.
Yeah, they
I
mention
get
him
along.
super briefly before they make him in I believe it's episode 1, before they make him the centerpiece of episode 2.
It's
And
one of the
it's like a
characters in the
blink if
bar,
you
right?
miss it. Yeah,
One
it's
of the
like a
characters in
blink
the
if you
bar
miss it.
says, like, the cops were like, we're still the thin blue line. No, we're not. It's people like Daredevil and the White Tiger is
Tiger.
basically the only
Yeah.
introduction we get, which kind of makes me suspicious. Maybe it's going to be a surprise return character, somebody who didn't die in one of the first 3 seasons has come back, and maybe that will be the big twist. Oh, look, it's so and so again. There's a couple of candidates that come to mind. Maybe, because it's a weird way to introduce a new character, in the sense that they don't really introduce a new character. They just say, hey, this person exists, probably will be relevant later.
Yeah, and like when guys like him show up out the blue like this, my first port of call is there was reshoots involved, or this is like the re-editing of the series where there's probably more scenes that established him earlier or something, and it's all just gone now, and we're supposed to like just make sense of it somehow with what we get. But yeah, it's the fact that they reference shit like his mystical amulet that gives him powers, and everyone just acts like that's completely natural. Like, oh yeah, you got a mystical amulet that gives you magical powers to help you fight better or whatever. That's cool. It's so out of step with pretty much everything that the Daredevil universe represents, but it's just treated as normal. Like, I feel like if you're going to work shit like that in, it needs more of an introduction than just yeah.
It comes
Magical
off so
amulets,
silly
cool.
when Matt Murdock is making the case for why they shouldn't introduce the White Tiger.
That was painful.
Yeah, when he's talking, he wasn't wearing his magical amulet. It was hard not
Yeah,
to cringe
exactly.
in that line delivery. It's pretty rough.
Yeah, like take that to a judge anywhere and say, like, oh, well, you can't charge him for vigilantism because he wasn't wearing his magical amulet. Like, what the fuck? Sure, okay. Good luck, guys.
They do try and go hard with the trying to make it stand out from the rest of the Disney Plus TV show crowd by making it adult. They're dropping a lot of F-bombs straight from the beginning too, and the violence is, CGI or not, it's intense. So
There's a decent amount of blood and stuff, and like some of the hits actually look like they got a bit of weight behind them. So there's something there. Like I said before, it's the Disney approximation of what they think Daredevil is.
yeah,
But it's still a lot grittier and a lot darker and a lot more violent than pretty much anything else that they've done that I can think of. And it feels very much like the show Echo wanted to be and was trying to be, but like just it was too retarded or it was too chicken shit to actually do any of this stuff. This is the first time they've actually gone all in with it. So it's something. It's progress. It's baby steps.
I heard this was originally a comedy.
What?
Yeah, I heard this was originally like so Mark Waid is a comic book writer, and he did a run of Daredevil that was a lot more lighthearted. And I heard they were basing it off that originally, which is when Kevin Feige stepped in and said, absolutely not, this is not working. So they took out a lot of the humor. I wouldn't say there's hardly any humor in this at this point. So it's like completely quipless. It's definitely not MCU humor at all. But yeah, I was wondering if you guys had heard that. It was originally supposed to be like funny, like a funny Daredevil show.
I've heard various things about the original cut of this, and none of them sounded good, but I don't think I'd heard that it was a comedy before. I mean, thank God that it's not.
Yeah, at least it's not that, I suppose. But like MauLer said, we got to take it as it is and not.
It's almost unbelievable that they'd think that Daredevil would be good grounds for a comedy, but the fact that it's unbelievable makes me think that that's a believable thing. They would totally do that. That's such a terrible decision. I can absolutely see them going for it, or at least trying to go for it. But if it ever was the case, there's not a huge amount of evidence for it anywhere.
one thing I was curious about as well is how they were going to handle his Catholicism, because obviously that's pretty heavily featured. It's a heavy component of what his character is and how he rationalizes the world. The original show did a pretty good job with that. So far, we've had him sort of stand outside a church and look at it for a few seconds and then move on. So not a huge amount. And I just think that's interesting how you choose to tackle these things, because, man, you went all in on the Miss Marvel Muslim aspect of it. You were fine with that. Let's see how you handle the Catholic faith here.
That discussion's been fascinating, just in terms of how much people don't want to communicate with each other, it feels. So we start with, they will be present, the Catholicism. And then we move into, Catholicism wasn't really present. It's not really affecting the themes, from someone who'd seen the whole season. And someone else who'd seen the whole season quote tweeted and said, this is a lie. It's definitely present. And then I saw someone else quote tweet that saying, with a picture of that church that the drink is referencing, saying, I can't believe people could just outright lie and say it's not present when it's clearly there. And then I quote tweeted that saying, it's for like 5 seconds. Like, what are you talking about? That's not a lie. Like, the guy saying it's not like a significant part of the season and not, intertwined with the themes is definitely an argument you can make if all they're going to do is have him very briefly have like a reference here and there. Sometimes I wonder how many people remember how things went in the first 3 seasons, but the amount of, like, the church is heavily involved in season 3. Like, it's a huge portion of the story. And then, 1 and 2, thematically speaking, well, and 3, it's what Drinker said. It's where he draws a lot of how he decides to live his life. You it's impossible to separate it. You need it intertwined with all of the way that he has his existential crises. Like, it's frustrating that this would be acceptable as, like, well, at least they showed a church. Like,
yeah, that's
okay.
not. Because it's also
Are you happy with the
structurally
scrapping?
integral as well. It's a fantastic way, and they use it in a couple or 2 or 3 different ways in seasons 1 through 3 as a means of like explicating his own inner monologues or his moral debates. It's a way of showing how he views himself and in relation to the world. You've got the various confessional scenes, which are like, brilliantly done narratively. It's such a useful thing to be able to do, to have a character sit opposite someone he trusts with secrets that won't get out anywhere and be able to talk to someone about what they're thinking and feeling. Saves a huge amount of time that would otherwise be spent with very hackneyed exposition. You've got, the moral dialogue with Nun. You've got the moral dialogue with the priest. All of that is integral. It's drawing on Catholicism, obviously, for a lot of its color and its, I guess, spiritual undertones. But it's narratively useful anyway to have someone reacting against an institution he trusts and people that he trusts in order to show the moral debate that really defines your entire season. Just looking at a church isn't the same thing, obviously not. But that also feels like the kind of content we would have had we not skipped the entire year during which season 1, 2, or 3 probably would have shown all of this stuff happening. Did he not go to anyone to seek spiritual guidance or advice, despite the massive moral trauma he's undertaken and suffered since Foggy died? Like, all of this stuff would have been a scene back in the day, and it just isn't anymore. But hey, he looked at a church, so it's totally thematic.
I mean, huge problem they haven't accounted for too is Sister Maggie. She needs to be in the show. That's season 3. Found out that was his mum, and like they're finally getting to the point of being able to like build a relationship. And now she's not only, the thing is, right, if you don't have the actor, or she refuses to come to the show, or you decide storytelling wise she can't be in it, you have to have lines. You gotta tell us why. You can't just not have them turn up or be regarded in any way, shape, or form. That's insane.
I mean, we're obviously, we're making judgments on 2 episodes here. Like, we've got many more to go, and like,
Drinker, they skipped a year.
Well, I know, and like, I'm trying to some extent, I'm trying to play devil's advocate with this and say, like, there's still more to come where they might try and grapple with some of this, and it's just been clunky the way they've handled it, but they are going to get to it. Hopefully they do.
Yeah.
But I've got this horrible feeling that they won't. And as Platoon says, like, their rationale will be, well, you saw a church in it. What more do you want? That's enough in terms of dealing with like his Catholic faith, because we don't want to get too much into the religious angle, because it might put off some people, might put off modern audiences.
So the longer they wait to do it, the harder it's going to be to do it, because the more you'll have to pack into a single scene. So it's not impossible, though. I hope that they do. How many episodes is this season in total, though? Because they've also got a huge amount else to do besides this.
Episode 9 is where this ends, but it's apparently 18 episodes just cut in half. It's not a definitive like end of season.
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear, this goes both ways. If episode 3 were like suddenly amazing and accounted for all of this, it wouldn't change 1 and 2 being shit. And I've not said anything
no.
about the season's quality because I can't. I haven't seen it.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's fair. I wasn't sure whether we were trying to like pass judgment on the whole show already,
Well,
just from what we've seen, or just
based on the 2 episodes, I wouldn't recommend it. You know, I think that's relatively fair, right? That's the caveat. You know, I haven't seen more than 2.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it would definitely be
that's
a
fair.
wait till the rest before recommending situation at the very least. Like, it's not a promising start. It's not irredeemably fucked, but it's still leaving itself a huge amount of work to do to repair already. And ideally, you don't want to be having to repair after just 2 episodes have launched. You can kind of structure it in such a way that you're balancing out. Because like, besides all of this stuff and all of the weight that's being added onto these so far hypothetical later scenes where we actually get character work for the main character, you've also got everything to do with Kingpin, everything to do with his rise to power, his relationship to the police. You've got all of the new characters who then have to be fleshed out. You've got the is it the niece of the journalist in season 1 who's back? She's a journalist in this one. She's going to be into playing. You've got a huge number of other things that you're going to have to do, which are also going to eat into the time that would be available otherwise to explore Matt's character. And I don't know. I'm struggling to see how they fit all of this in the 6 episodes they have left to do it. 7 episodes they have left to do it. Maths, I'm too bad at that. But whichever one it is, 6 or 7.
Fair dues. Just before we go on, do you guys mind if we answer a couple of super chats just to try and keep up to speed with some of them at least?
Sure.
No.
Okay. Well, Platoon says no, so what can I do? Electro Metro says, I just told a female colleague that she can't come over to the house because I've got a plan for tonight. This is the plan. Am I stupid or just loyal? Well, why not both, I would say. But we do appreciate you watching this instead. So thank you, man. Stephen DeLeon says, on time and gay. Well, we weren't quite on time, but we are all gay. So, you know, we're trying to balance it out. Mikey Gusler says, hey, MauLer, Nostalgia Critic released a Fellowship of the Ring video. He plans on releasing the next 2 over the next 2 weeks. EFAP needs to cover this. It'll make your head explode.
Surely he's not going to say this shit. Surely. Come on.
I wouldn't expect a deep analysis from him, put it that way.
No, but he must like, it's Nostalgia Critic is a goofy goober, but you know, it's Lord of the Rings. It's Lord of the Rings. Come on.
Yeah, everyone liked that. PB McGee says, Drinker and MauLer, do you celebrate St. Patrick's Day or do you wait for St. Andrew's or St. David's? Also, do you drink your face off for those? I mean, my face is never detached from the rest of my skull, but I've done my best.
I just like the idea.
She's
It's like, Drinker,
"Ah!"
dude, this holiday's coming up. You gonna drink for it? You're like, yeah.
I mean, like, have you seen me on an average day? You know,
I guess so.
Social Morlock says, greetings, panel. Thanks for everything. Anyone watched Yellow Jackets yet? Really enjoyed the first 2 seasons and 3 so far. Would recommend. Different and fun. I've seen it. It gets advertised to shit and back, but yeah, I've never watched it yet.
No.
Not the first time I've heard that's very good, though. So
Yeah.
I'll take that into consideration.
Trickster King, who's been a member for 9 months now, says, would you delete the MCU to make all Disney Star Wars 6+ out of 10, or delete Disney Star Wars to make all the MCU 6+ out of 10? So basically, if you could delete one to make the other one halfway good.
See a Star Wars. I have like thousands of dollars of Marvel statues behind me, so I'll catch Star Wars another time.
That's a really interesting question. Like, kill one to rescue the other, because I'm trying to think of like what would be best for the world, for Star Wars to be healthy or for MCU to be healthy. I'm not 100% sure.
There is a lot more MCU. So
true.
you would be gaining more points if you sacrifice Star Wars just by pure weight of numbers. I sentimentally would like to say I would rather save Star Wars though.
I know I personally want to save Star Wars, but the MCU might be the one that has the bigger impact because it's maybe more inspiring if you save that many projects and that many. I don't know. That's a hard one, but I think I would opt for Star Wars saving.
I think in terms of like its actual cultural impact, Star Wars has probably been more than the MCU. Like, despite the fact that, like, yeah, MCU has clearly made a shit ton more money than Star Wars ever has, and it's made way more movies. I think Star Wars has had a bigger impact culturally than the MCU ever did.
I think you're right. But who knows what would have happened if every project had been at least a 6 post Endgame. You know? Could have been a big old momentum train going
True.
further and further.
True.
But fair, yeah.
Cannon says, Drinker, you may have missed my super chat from last week. In brief, Tarzan, White Zombie, The Mummy, Scarface, all released in 1932 and are all hugely influential in their genres. Cheers, you sodden scholar. I do remember reading that out, actually. We talked about this, didn't we?
I feel like you read that out, but
Yeah, I did. You might have missed it in our super chat catch up, so it's probably there. In that case, Master of Puppets with the DCEU BM2. What was that?
Batman 2?
Yeah, it must have been. Should have been the first film with a scene of Alfred reading a paper with Superman on the front page. Then do the Superman film without an ensemble cast / Skybeam, just Superman saving people with Lex as the main villain. Sounds simple. Too simple for DC, you might say. But yeah, I think that'd be all right.
Oh, that gives me an opportunity to maybe say something nice about Daredevil Born Again, though, which is that at the moment, I don't think there's any evidence that there will be skybeams at any point. Kingpin isn't going to turn into some kind of Godzilla monster. It's not going to be cosmic. There's no multiverse. It's still relatively grounded. That makes it
so
good.
far.
So far. Yeah. Hostage to fortune now.
Daredevil will be fighting alongside Spider-Man and fucking Doctor Strange against whatever the latest threat is. Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom, probably. Give it time.
He definitely will. Yeah.
The Epic Wolf says, just a message of appreciation. As a Scot, you're my favorite boy drinker. You need to find some better role models, man. But thank you. MauLer is obviously a hero too, since I missed MauLer / EFAP live since. Congrats, Little Platoon, becoming the new fapping host.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Continue to fap hard, man.
Oh, I will.
Yeah. One of the other things I was going to bring up tonight was the Oscars happened. You would never know it because basically no one's talked about it and no one seems to care, which is kind of emblematic of the overall trend, I think. But apparently the viewing numbers have come out, and they're like amalgamated viewing numbers, because the initial numbers that we got were about 18 million live views on the night, right? Which would make it worse than the previous year by about 1 million. But apparently it's gone up slightly. And they didn't take into account streaming, and they didn't take into account people watching on their phones, all that sort of thing. So it did actually bump it up a little bit. So I will say, where is it? Yeah. So apparently the Oscars 2025 ratings have changed for the better, slightly. The award show viewership did go up by a mighty 3%, with 3.92 rating amongst adults aged 18 to 49, which are the people who actually buy things. The highest rating in this category in 2 whole years. So, it says here, why are millennials and Gen Z tuning into the Oscars this year? Is it a bunch of stars that no one cares about? Was it Conan O'Brien hosting? Well, apparently it's...
it was Amelia Perez.
Sure, yeah. It could be possible that Hulu allowing viewers to stream the show made it more accessible to a demographic that typically doesn't have cable. So, yeah, possibly. But yeah, the gist of it here says that the final Nielsen numbers for Sunday's ceremony came in Tuesday morning. It turns out the event was actually seen by slightly more than 19.6 million viewers, which is more than the 18.1 that the initial fast data showed, which was on Monday. So yeah, it's mostly just taking into account streaming, people watching on their phones, that sort of thing. But
what was the equivalent figure for last year? Do we know?
I can show you here. So I've got a graph. Sorry, that one goes up to 2023. Last year was, as I recall, it was just over 19. So I think it's a slight increase. Yeah, let's see. Yes. Okay. So 2024 was 19.49 million. And when we got the final numbers for this year, it's 19.69. So yeah, you're talking
So
about 200k more.
that is statistically insignificant. It's held level,
Yes.
right? I mean, that's not bad news for them. It's not declining.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I think it's like when you see this graph here, you can see like when you've gone up from the highs of 2014, where you were at over 40 million, which is pretty damn impressive. The decline started round about then, incidentally, when The Force Awakens came out. But anyway, and it was kind of steady decline up until about 2020, then a massive crash in 2021. I guess you could blame the pandemic on that because it was a very weird ceremony then. It slowly started to increase in 2022 and 2023. And as we said there, it's held round about that 19 million mark since then. So not going down any further, it would seem, but nothing like the highs of 10 years previously.
Yeah, and it's almost crawled back to pre-pandemic levels, which is, I mean, it's the right trajectory, but that's getting back to a point at which it had already been in decline for 5 years. So it's not, I wouldn't necessarily call it healthy. Also, like, obviously, I guess these figures don't tell you, say, how long people watched for, how many of these people watched the entire thing or tuned in for 5 minutes or caught like a clip of it online of the film they wanted to see win. It's hard to say whether or not this will ever be the kind of culturally relevant phenomenon it used to be, just because actors have done so much to disgrace themselves over such a long period of time. And the prestige of award shows kind of is tied to the prestige of people being awarded to a large degree. And if they're completely contemptible, what's the point? Do I care that Emilia Perez may or may not win the best song? No. I mean, it's funny because it lost the other ones. That's hilarious. It's funny with the French director, who is one of my favorite people just for being so culturally insensitive to everyone, was asked after it. They said, do you want to take this opportunity to speak out about the plight of trans people in the world? And he said, no, because I didn't win. And that was
I mean, you got to admire his honesty.
And he actually did win because he was like jointly nominated for, I think, Best Original Song, and it won an award for that. I can't remember which song it was, but it was him and two other people got the award for that. So he did win. It's just he didn't win the one he wanted.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you're nominated for 13 categories and you only pick up 2, I think, it's got to sting. It's got to feel like a bit of a snub.
That movie alone is why I didn't want to watch the Oscars this year. I had obviously, like everyone here, I've been losing faith with the Oscars for years. But when that movie was nominated for 13 and I actually watched the film and realized it's like one of the worst movies I've ever seen, I could not see it get rewarded. And I think they only didn't reward it because of the fallout from the actor arrests of Emilia Perez. So even when Zoe Saldana won, and found that out, I was struck because it's just like, in my opinion, she provided an awful performance in an awful movie. I thought she was terrible. I hated her character. I hated everything about that movie. So I couldn't even fathom it winning awards, and it was going to, I think.
I think it was. I think there might have been a bit of putting the thumb on the scales there to turn it away from that, which I don't blame them for doing in the slightest. Like that, if that had won and swept the Oscars this year, it would have been calamitous for them. So it does make sense, at least, that they did that. I think Zoe Saldana gave good performance. Like, I think I agree in that her character was a fucking horrible person, but like ultimately the actor's playing the character as it's written. I think her performance was decent in a movie that was otherwise pretty shit. So I don't mind that, but yeah, the movie definitely got snubbed for the most part.
Good.
Yeah. But then Anora was like the big winner, and it's like a movie that fucking no one had ever heard of and wasn't particularly amazing. It was just like a pretty stodgy, standard romantic drama.
I'm watching it this evening, so that's good to know. Going into it.
Yeah. Rich guy falls in love with a stripper, gets married, tries to introduce her to his family. They're like, no fucking way are we having her. And then they annul the wedding and she goes her separate ways. Back to her horrible life. Yeah, it's not a great one, but the performances were okay, I suppose. But yeah, the overall Oscars ceremony this year, it all just felt safe. Safe seemed to be the theme with it. The choices for the winners were mostly pretty safe. Conan O'Brien was a pretty safe host. All the speeches were relatively safe. No one was like super controversial or super political for the most part, anyway. It was all pretty tame.
That's why they went for O'Brien as host, wasn't it? They wanted someone who could, be funny for a general audience as opposed to be funny for an increasingly shrinking audience of claptivists.
Yes. Yeah. And it's a nice, it's nice to get away from guys like Jimmy Kimmel and God knows what else. But
So
no one wants that. But yeah, overall, it's I don't know what the draw is anymore with stuff like this. As Platoon said, like when actors for the most part have outed themselves as pretty contemptible human beings and pretty uninteresting people who don't really have much intelligence things to say. Why are you going to want to spend 4 hours listening to them prattle on about themselves in a big venue like this where they're wearing $10,000 tuxedos or whatever?
The other traditional big draw, of course, is the quality and caliber and popularity of the movies being awarded. And I could see myself maybe caring about the Oscars if I were, on the internet back when Return of the King came out, because that was an incredible film that deserved to win basically everything. But you look, increasingly over the last several years, if not the last decade, they do seem to have become more and more niche over time. I think it probably peaks with Emilia Perez being so obviously an Oscar baity movie. But if you're deliberately looking for things which are unpopular, or at least not like demotically popular, they're not a mass audience appeal, then you've lost another key reason for people to invest in, because nobody's particularly invested in this bizarre French Mexican crossover art house film, musical, comedy, crime drama. It's so obscure, and it obviously exists to tick so many boxes, and the one box that doesn't even get factored in is, do people watch it and like it? If you're not going to have popular films that are commonly recognized, that's another reason for people not to tune in very often.
Well, I think last year kind of went down that road, didn't they? Like, Barbie and Oppenheimer and stuff were the big Oscar contenders and making a lot of headlines, and still didn't attract a huge viewership.
I think the Golden Globes went out of its way to, it didn't invent an entirely new award category for Barbie, because it was nominated, I think, for best song and best something else, and it wasn't going to win them. So they invented something like best box office performance or something. I can't remember what it was. But they had to invent a category to fit in a film that people had actually seen, in a bit to try and trick people into watching another award show that I don't think is doing very well in the ratings these days.
No, definitely. I think the other one that stood out for me in terms of Oscar bait movies was The Brutalist, which is a 3.5 hour Adrian Brody misery-a-thon, basically, where like it's a post-war, drama where he's like a Jewish refugee, helped design like an art museum or something. And it's just him being miserable for 3.5 hours. I think the movie even brought back the concept of an intermission just because it's so fucking long and boring. I think
wasn't his speech as long as the movie?
Yeah,
record-breaking speech.
He did go on. Yeah, we all felt pretty miserable about that. So yeah, I mean that's the kind of movies that you're talking about here. It's not exactly crowd pleasers.
Do you see people posting the Joe Pesci Oscar acceptance speech by comparison, where he walks up and says, "Thank you, I really appreciate it," and walks off? It's like,
was it Alfred Hitchcock who did the same? No, wait. Yeah, it was something like him, like where he literally did the same thing, where he was just like, "Oh, thank you, appreciate it," and then left. Yeah, that's how you do it, though. Just short and sweet. But well, that was the Oscars. I could tell you guys were interested.
I mean, it is awkward because I just don't give a fuck about the Oscars. I don't know if I ever will. I find it all so annoying. Like each year, we just discover more reasons for why it should never be relevant.
Yeah. No, I get you.
It's interesting that it's like considered the pinnacle of those people's careers, and the people who actually pay their bills, us, the audience, we don't really give a shit about it.
Yeah. I think it'd be better. It would work better as a lower key event where it is just industry people, and they don't try and make such a song and dance about it, but it's got meaning because it is like the people who actually do this stuff, who matter, who like have reached the pinnacle of their craft or whatever. And it was a little bit more specialized, but you can't have it both ways. You can't have this huge this live event extravaganza and expect like tens of millions of people to tune in for it when it is a bunch of obscure movies that no one really cares about and actors patting themselves on the back for being awesome. Like, I think you can either have one or the other. You can't do both.
Yeah, it's really political too, isn't it? Like the way the voting system works and the way movies even get nominated and pushed. Like there's a reason why it's called an Oscar push. It's like it's not necessarily that the movie is just deserving on its own merit. It's if it gets enough backing and enough push by the studio to win.
Well, that was the thing that kicked off a lot of the Emilia Paris controversy, was that the Carla Gascon accused, or seemed to accuse, one of the rival Best Actress nominees of at least having a social media team that was spreading vile rumors in a bid to undermine its political chances of winning an award by, like industry malfeasance. And then lots of Brazilian people were unhappy because the actress she accused was Brazilian. So the Brazilians started researching it, and then they found the old tweets, and then everyone hated her. And then but then I think I said this in my video, that there is 1,000 reasons why Emilia Paris shouldn't win a single award, but the reason it won't win awards is precisely the political controversy it caused, and nothing to do with the artistic merit of the film to begin with, which is the only thing it really should be awarding. And the more transparent that becomes as well, the less trust you have in the judgment of the people who hand out these awards. And so again, why bother tuning in unless you're very interested in all the drama around the actresses or actors or actresses or whatever they are?
I did definitely appreciate watching Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler walk out on stage together.
I did see that clip. That's pretty good.
Gal Gadot looks like she could eat Rachel Zegler. Like, she is tiny compared to her. And yeah, what a contrast in terms of how you carry yourself and your poise and your posture. Rachel Zegler just looked like a short, dumpy child who just didn't want to be there.
She's like swinging her arms and stuff too.
Yeah, I don't get what she was going for. It's like, have you literally never walked in a dress before? You claimed during the SAG-AFTRA strikes that you spend 18 hours a day wearing a Disney princess dress. I thought you would have gotten better at moving in it by that point, but I guess not.
When is it we get to see those two wonderful actors on screen together next? When is Snow White out?
21st.
21st.
Yeah, it's not far off. It's not far off. Actually, on that subject, the box office tracking is in for it. The long range tracking, anyway. Let's see if I can bring it up here. Yeah, so apparently, Sean Robbins at Box Office Theory notes that Snow White's domestic opening weekend is expected to gross between 52 million and 71 million, with a pinpoint prediction of 56. As for its total domestic, he revealed it's tracking for between 130 and 209 million, with a rough pinpoint of just 155 million for its run. And to put that into context, Captain America Brave New World, that was tracking for an opening weekend of between 81 and 98 million, with 90 million pinpointed 3 weeks from release. And he predicted its domestic total would be between 195 and 266, with 240 the most likely. And it would eventually gross just it would gross just 88 million in its opening weekend. So far, it has only grossed 163 domestically. So it's tracking terrible, basically.
Yeah, and the multiplier there from the opening weekend to its final total is around 3, which would be incredible. Considering the most likely quality of this film, I cannot fathom that it's going to have a 3.0 multiplier. That would be amazing.
Yeah. The budget as well is apparently, because of reshoots and various problems, it's increased to 269 million. Now, Disney did get a tax rebate on it for 55, so it's sitting at 213 apparently at the moment. But yeah, if you're going to go down the 3 times multiplier road with it, you're talking well over 600 million just to break even.
No way.
The rumor though is, like, given the various reshoots they've done on it, they are looking at closer to 500 million for budget.
Again, It's a Brave New World all over again.
Yeah, pretty much. This is what happens when you go into panic mode with your movie and you don't know what the hell you're supposed to do to fix it. You just know you have to do something.
Gotta fix it, but don't know
But
how.
but all of those things cost lots and lots of money. Yeah, so apparently WDW Pro is claiming that we know this film has a budget that's somewhere around 300 million. They have overshot that significantly, according to my source, and this film is now heading towards for The Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker. It's that kind of budget. We're nearing a $500 million mark, according to the source.
So we can expect to see an army of Star Destroyer Death Stars, right?
I hope so, yeah.
Excellent.
I mean, it would definitely improve the film. Yeah, so what else is he saying here? Yeah, so if it's got that kind of budget and then it does Brave New World numbers, oof. Because I can't see how it could do anything else. Like the fan enthusiasm definitely isn't there. The word of mouth, obviously, just about the various controversies surrounding this film is absolutely terrible. But it just seems like it's got no path to success. I'm just going to check actually what Brave New World's currently sitting at after I don't know, 3 weeks now it's been at the box office. It's got 344 million worldwide.
I mean, unless this movie comes out of nowhere and is actually fantastic somehow, which I can't imagine. Just I follow box office for fun, and it's there's just no way it can see a success. It makes me wonder why they release these sorts of things. Like, is it to save face? Do they actually think they'll recoup eventually with like toy sales and that type of thing? Because it's certainly not going to happen at the box office. So where do they actually expect to get their money back from?
Yeah, no idea at this point. Disney Plus, yes. Because I'm just thinking as well, what can potentially compete with this? And what have we got? Mickey 17, which is kind of just coming out. That's probably going to be fading out by the time this movie
It'll be
comes out.
small anyway, I bet.
21st. Moana 2. What else? Black Bag. No, it's all just shit that I've never heard of before.
Yeah, I'm still wondering where he's getting that 3.0 multiplier from, because unless there's zero competition, which didn't matter for Brave New World, that movie fell off the face of the earth and there was no competition.
Yep. Yeah.
A shame.
Yeah, what a shame.
Yeah, so I guess the next couple of weeks will be interesting when it comes out. But yeah, I can't wait to watch it. I'm sure you guys are equally excited.
I've been anticipating
Oh,
this
yes.
movie for a couple years now. I'm ready for it.
Well, yeah,
Bring it
they keep pushing it back. Sadly, we were all primed to go, and they just kept cock teasing us with it. So,
Well, because
whatever.
the English demanded that they sack all their dwarves, and so they had to create horrible CG ones instead. It takes time to invent things that horrible.
It does, yeah. I mean, it's genuinely impressive. The question here: do kids even know that this movie's coming out? I don't know. Someone asked the kids. It's no idea. I can't imagine parents are going to be super excited to take their kids to go see this one. But yeah, it's okay. Fantastic Four is going to make everything right.
It is the most interesting question, I think, about the Snow White film is, what is the attitude of families in particular? Because you would think that this should be a safe bet for Disney. This is their core audience. This is the film that they've made basically, they've tried to make since the early 1920s, 30s, 40s. This is core Disney product. It is a family story. It is a fairy tale. It is an established name and IP. And it should be safe children's entertainment. So the opinions of people who have kids, are they going to take their kids to see it? Are the kids excited for it? They interest me more, I think, even than box office predictions do, because they'll be the people who determine whether that movie succeeds or fails. And I've spoken to a couple, and they're not all that enthusiastic. So,
yeah. Question here as well. What if it's good? I think honestly, I kind of hope it does. It would be absolutely hilarious just to report on that. After all this controversy and all the bullshit, just the movie actually turns out amazing. It'd be a great comeback, if nothing else.
Hmm.
I can't see it happening, but stranger things have indeed happened. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Apparently, Disney have pulled the Snow White UK premiere.
Oh, why?
Yeah. I think they were worried about trouble. Let me see, because I just saw this mentioned on Twitter earlier on.
Worried about trouble? what
Yeah,
trouble could befall a Snow White UK premiere?
Well,
Protesters?
let me tell you, Disney axes UK Snow White premiere amid racist, anti-woke backlash fears. The
What?
controversial remake faces a barrage of criticism, including overcasting and lead actress Rachel Zegler's insulting remarks. So yeah, Disney has reportedly scrapped plans for a UK premiere of its upcoming Snow White remake amid fears of an anti-woke backlash, following a wave of criticism over the film's casting, creative choices, and comments made by Rachel Zegler. The highly anticipated reimagining of the blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so then it's just a summary of like some of the controversies around it. So, yeah.
Someone leaked the fact that I'd assembled an army of skinheads and I was going to march them to the Snow White UK premiere to protest Rachel Zegler. God,
This is why you
damn
have
it.
to be this is why you have to be careful about who you tell about these things, Platoon. Honestly, you should have kept it
God.
secret. You could have done this.
Keep
But
much
yeah,
work. Keep it safe.
Yeah. But yeah, everyone's reporting on it. It's apparently happened. Yeah, they've pulled it. It does make
Well,
me
that's-
wonder. Yeah, they were going to hold a nice glitzy premiere in London, and now they're not going to get to do it. So sorry, people of Britain, you're not going to get to go see Rachel Zegler walk the red carpet in London.
Damn.
You brought this on yourselves with your skinheads and stuff. But never mind. So yeah, I guess we'll find out when the movie comes out, how it does at the box office. But if you guys don't mind, there's a bunch of super chats here that have come in while we've been talking about this, so I'll try and answer a few. Well, let me see. Yes. Kobo says, greetings, drinker and panel. Any thoughts on Alien Earth? Because that's the thing which is going to happen.
It concerns me.
Hope for the best.
Yeah.
Expect probably not the best.
Yep.
Am I right about the premise of this? So it's a prequel, or at least this is set before the events of Alien and Aliens,
Yes,
right? Yes,
it is, yeah.
And yet there's an alien on Earth.
Yep, I don't know how that happens.
I wonder if that could cause a couple of problems. Maybe it'll be good. I hope it will be. It'd be nice to have another good Alien movie for the first time since the 1980s. So
Yeah.
maybe this will be the one.
We were talking
What
about
do
this
you
on
mean?
when's
People
the last
loved Romulus.
like how many franchises are there where it's just riding off of one or two great films and they've produced like 6 or more?
Jurassic Park, anyone?
Jurassic
Yeah.
Park. Like fucking Star Wars at this point as well.
Terminator.
Terminator, yeah. Terminator.
Predator.
Yeah, Predator.
There's been so many, man. It's almost impressive how long they've managed to keep these franchises on life support. You know, like we've had flop after flop, or critically lambasted dog shit movies, but we're just going to keep going.
I assume it is as simple as like, I have an idea for a crazy alien film, but it's like, we're not going to invest in that. No one knows what this shit is. It's like, what if we call it Alien? Yeah, okay, well, we could use that. Yeah, all right, fine.
Perfect.
Just throw in some references, get some old actors back, and we'll make $1 billion. And then they don't. They're like, wow, it didn't work. And then next year they do the exact same thing. They're like, how isn't this working?
Are you guys excited for Prey 2? Is that still happening, by the way?
I think so. There's another one happening too, right? There's 2 Predator films.
Is that Predator
Apparently,
the
yes.
Badlands? Is that the one? I don't know anything about the premise. I
Yes.
think it's called Badlands.
Yeah, I think, as far as I know,
remember
one
the
of them's a
name.
sequel and then one of them's a different era altogether. So, hey, lower budgets, more interesting premise. Predator could just survive. Maybe.
Tell it from the
Predator
Predator's
as a
point of view.
protagonist, isn't that what's going on?
I heard that as an idea as well. Yeah.
Yeah, do
It's
that.
all going to be execution, so we'll see.
Yeah, exist outside the box. The only reason the Oscars went up at all is because they didn't do any woke garbage last year. Am I wrong in that thought? Drink harder, boys. They mostly didn't. Yeah, like last year was a pretty tame Oscars as well. It's like they've been kind of humbled. I guess I was kind of interested with this year's one because we've just had the US election. You know, Trump's in the White House again. How's Hollywood going to react to it? It's very different from like 2016, 2017. The rhetoric has changed quite a bit in that there isn't much. And I don't know, I mean, they've just perhaps had a reality check recently.
Their standards on what can get nominated, though, are still just knee deep in a DEI.
Yeah,
vendetta.
you've got to meet all the diversity requirements before you can even be considered for an Oscar nomination, which is it's interesting. Yeah, the only way to save the Oscars is to have Dave Chappelle host it. I'm Rick James, bitch. They would never do it. TWF drinker, sorry for the typo 2 weeks ago. Well, I'm not accepting your apology. I'm still mad about it. I meant TFA, not TFW. At the bar, for a more positive subject, what's everyone's guilty pleasure movie and series? Mine are Con Air and High School DxD, respectively. One's 90s cheese, the other anime fan service. Well, Con Air's a good choice, I would say, for sure.
Batman and Robin forever.
There you go. Classic.
I dragged MauLer into mine earlier in October because we brought him on to do a breakdown of Friday the 13th, Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan.
Oh,
yeah, dude.
Proper classic right there. I've always had a soft spot for Armageddon. The over-the-top patriotism and gung-ho. Like, yeah, we need to blow the shit out of this asteroid. It's pretty good fun. RRTNZ. Great to see four of my favorite YouTubers together. I'm enjoying Born Again. The two leads are very strong, and I like the bold opening. Cheers, lads. Well, there you go.
That's a take.
Yeah.
I'm conscious we did come across very harsh on it. I mean, are there any other things that people really liked about it, just to balance out the misery and the cynicism and the things we didn't like?
It's always nice seeing Vincent D'Onofrio back, even if
the actors were just wonderful.
Yes. The actors were doing
I did like the coffee shop scene that reminded me of Heat. The Pacino and De Niro confrontation in Heat. I thought that was pretty good. I like that.
It was nice to watch. Nice to watch two pros just go at it in the simplest possible setting. Just sitting at a table talking. It's neat. And yeah, I like the sort of down and grungy aesthetic of it. It's not as clean and colorful as your usual Marvel stuff. So they're trying with it. They're trying to approximate the vibe of the original show. They don't quite get there, but it's something. Yeah, I'm reaching here. What's this one? Yeah, the Crayon God. Hail MauLer, Cardiff lad here. Long live the Welsh. We are fucking nuts. We don't do anything by half. Stay strong, my fellow and beloved Brits. We can pull through these dark times.
Fuck yeah, dude.
There you go. Yeah. Kevin O'Neill, he's been a member for 14 months, says, protests, seriously? We just won't show up or buy tickets. Kind of like the modern audience when they support something. That's the way to do it. Vote with your wallet, I guess. Next one. Kuhaku. He's been a member for 15 months. Says, hail gents, what would your number one recommendations for a TV show be?
Well, Breaking Bad, but everyone's seen it, so it's like,
current stuff. I like White Lotus quite a bit. There's 2 seasons of that, and I am currently watching Severance, and that's interesting, but it's a mystery box show, so watch out. But would recommend it so far.
I've not started season 2 of that yet. I mean, is there any sense that they are just spiraling out with mystery boxes and Severance, and it has no direction, or do they know what they're
doing? It's getting weirder, but I hear that they know where they're going. So I'm like, okay, all right, we'll see.
I'm in that position with Alice in Borderlands, where it's very heavily into the mystery box idea, but it's a fun show, and I think the characters are super likable, and performance-wise, I can't really fault it. And some of the games that they're forced to play are actually pretty interesting. They present them with some pretty neat moral dilemmas. So overall, I enjoyed that show. I'm
I
looking
did see
forward to
someone in
season 3.
chat mentioned Silo, which I would have confidently said yes to if it was still just season 1. But if you want to watch a show grind to a halt, then watch season 2. And you don't want to watch
I
season
haven't
2,
seen
so
season
don't even
2
watch
yet.
it. Oh,
Have you seen it?
yes.
What's the take on it?
Yeah. If season 1 was like just about on the, I think season 1 was as slow as you could get away with while remaining interesting. I think it had some interesting character stuff, had some interesting world stuff. Season 2 doesn't. It takes twice as long to do about a quarter of as much. It introduces a bunch of people we don't really know or need. And it drags out what is supposed to be a fairly quick second half of a book into one of the most long and tedious and boring experiences of my life. And to this day, I can't remember what happens in most of the episodes. So, you could watch maybe episode 1 and then watch the last episode, and then you've got all the story you really need for whatever they do with season 3. But the rest of it is just, yeah.
Well, all right.
Pretty damning. I like this one as well. I want Alan Richardson to play Abby in Last of Us season 2. He's not big enough. He's gonna have to bulk up if he wants to play Abby. It was making me laugh on X though, because Variety posted an article about this, saying that Caitlin Dever is playing Abby in season 2. Obviously, with the violence markedly cut down from the game, the HBO showrunners say that the need for Abby to be so physically imposing wasn't quite as critical. Quote, Caitlin Dever wanted to work with us. We wanted to work with her. It's not worth passing up to continue a search that might never bear fruit to find someone that matches the physicality.
Lol.
In other words, you couldn't find an actress who actually looks like that fucking monstrosity, and so you just went for an actual woman who's more believable.
I think this could have been predicted by about everyone. That this would happen.
Yeah.
You will not find a girl who is, because that's the thing, right? They probably thought she was a really good actress. She looks close enough to the girl, and then they were like, "Yeah, but she's not bulky." And then they were like, "We're not going to find. Nobody's going to be ticking all 3 of those boxes." Okay.
Or like perhaps they said like, "Hey, can she bulk up to be that sort of size?" And then every doctor on the planet said, "No, she can."
I love the idea that like there's one doctor said, "Yes, it will take 10 years." Like,
10 years and all the steroids you can give us.
She will not be able to do anything else. It's like this will be a focused program.
Yeah, man, it's that show's got a lot of red flags going for it. And I am concerned for season 2.
I mean, I think it's DOA. There's no way it's going to survive adapting that game.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch them totally fail though. Yeah, question here. Dr. Manzor says, "Hey, MauLer, when are you going to EFAP Street Fighter 1994? It's perfect for you guys and Raul Julia." I assume he's meaning that he's a great
It's
actor.
perfect for Raul Julia.
Yeah. I mean, he probably doesn't have too many opinions about movies these days. He's great in it. Definitely an actor who knew that this was silly and just decided to have fun with it.
Yeah, we'll do that at some point, probably. We'll have Drinker on for it, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. I'd happily talk about that movie. I mean, the Bisonopolis speech, how can you top that? That's like up there with the greatest monologues in film history, I would say. Here's a question as well from Casey Boyd. Platoon, why do you dislike the Oliphant kill from Lord of the Rings?
Oh, from Return of the King?
Yeah, I assume it's the Legolas one.
Yeah, I can't think of another one. I mean, well, there is an Oliphant kill in War of the Rohirrim, but since nobody watched that, I can't imagine that's what this is in reference to.
Well, there is the Eomer one as well, where he gets the spear.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, he lobs a spear which kills the driver, and then it kind of kills itself. I don't know if that really counts. I don't massively hate the Legolas one. It is a payoff to an on-running bit. I just think it's a little bit superhero-y for the tone that the movie was striving for. So I don't hate it. I just think I could have done without it, kept a slightly more grounded tone, maybe. But
yeah,
but it's.
I'm inclined to agree. I think it's borderline. It's like, oof, careful, guys. Don't go any further than this now. Like we're good.
Yeah, it's a bit over the top. It's a bit superhero-y. I don't love it. I think they could have done without that. We already know Legolas is a badass fighter. Like he didn't need this to big him up even more. But it does have a killer line from Gimli right at the end of it.
Well, I was going to say, is that like the most expensive setup for a one-line joke in history? The amount of CGI work that went into that just for having to say it still only counts as one.
It's
But
it's how
it's not just the
it's-
line; it's the way the camera moves up to him. The fact that he's so unimpressed on his face, like
no,
annoyed.
he's so affronted by it,
Yeah.
because you can see what this awesome guy has just done, and he's like, it still only counts as one.
I love it. The 3 movies are great.
Yeah. Go for Broke says, looking forward to seeing Platoon on the 24-hour EFAP live streams.
Oh yeah, your first one will be this year. It's coming.
Yeah. I'm just going to buy all the cocaine. It'll be great. Stay up for
Yeah.
the entire thing.
I'll do
Think
it.
you'll
for
probably-
you.
Don't worry, we supply hosts with cocaine. That's one of the benefits.
Arkham Reaver says, to clarify last week's chat, I made a full showdown bracket of characters from 2024 films, shows, and games, but YouTube doesn't allow links inside of super chats. I'd be happy to share it with you some other way for the bar to discuss. Yeah, sure. I mean, is this like some kind of showdown between all the different characters, like who would ultimately come out on top, like a celebrity death match? But yeah, share it with us. Go for it. Deval's asking, why do you think all the Star Wars shows except Andor look so cheap? Is it misspending or extremely bad planning, which they hope the CGI dungeon slaves are going to fix? The sets for Andor looked pretty amazing, meanwhile.
I mean, Andor was in production for a long time, right? And it would make sense that they took the time to be able to plan and build and film where they wanted to, while stuff like fucking Book of Boba Fett, the turnaround on that was insanely fast to the point where you could spot mistakes in the sets. So
Is
that
it
makes
just the
sense.
use of volume screen? Was it just that? Like they
well,
thought that
as
was
we
going to be
know,
the solution to everything?
the Batman is a pretty gorgeous volume film, so it's like, again, it comes down to, I assume, time. A lot of them get rushed. So yeah, a lot of CGI artists in the dungeons and a lot of, I don't know, volume screen production people who need more time to incorporate and they just don't care, or about the time needed. And then there's like how people talk about this all the time with Pirates of the Caribbean, that the director was like super involved, like Peter Jackson was with Lord of the Rings, with incorporation of digital effects with physical. I don't know if this director's doing that anymore. I don't even know if they.
Probably not.
It's
No.
very rare, I'd imagine.
Thumbs Up says, Drinker falling asleep in his own video was awesome. that's what the Brutalist will do to you, man, honestly. Also says, MauLer, is Zemo's plan in Civil War too contrived, do you think?
I mean, there's a lot of like contingencies and fail safes, but ultimately he's going, like, his main goal is to tear the Avengers apart. He's going to do it by telling Tony that Steve's friend, the Winter Soldier, killed his parents. It's just a matter of getting the best evidence and providing it in the best way. So what you see in the movie is him attempting to get to that goal as best as possible, but that if ever it was subverted or if anything went wrong, he could always, that's always going to be the backup plan, is to simply tell him.
Fair. Yeah, fair.
Drive him apart.
TGV Monster. I think we could take MauLer's idea from Real BBC and create the Flappy Awards. Plus, I saw the Resident Evil Romero documentary on Amazon. Good stuff. Yeah, it's kind of fascinating what could have happened and didn't. But I don't know, man. Like, ultimately, George Romero doing a Resident Evil movie, like, his zombie flicks are iconic, but quite cheesy at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I said it. You know, it's true. Particularly when you look at like the zombie makeup and all the effects and stuff, it's pretty low budget stuff, but it would have been interesting nonetheless. But yeah, what's the Flappies?
Well,
MauLer.
to be fair, I didn't call them I said the Oscars has now about as much legitimacy, like officially with authority, as if we would do it at awards ceremony on EFAP, we called it the Fappies.
Okay.
The Flappies. But, hey.
Flappies sounds like, some porn award that, like, for someone who's just been overused in the industry.
Oh, no.
Everything's gone a bit flappy now. Yeah, Craig the Bad Guy. You have the power to make the Buffy reboot great, but you must stream for 12 hours with the lol cow of your choice. Boogie, Bob, or Grace Randolph. That's a tough one, by the way.
The thing is, you say this like it's a punishment. I see this as an opportunity. Who would I want
you
to
couldn't
ask
listen
the most questions to?
You couldn't listen to Grace Randolph's voice for 12 hours. You'd die. You'd go insane.
It might be Bob, because Boogie, I know all the shit that he'll say. He'll just lie to me constantly. But Bob is crazy. I might be able to tempt him to say some wacky shit. But Grace, Grace would kill. My head would explode before that conversation was over. So,
yeah, Bob would be quite the challenge. Legion of Cataphract says, a toast for the red squirrels holding the line after the biological attack unleashed by the invading grey squirrels in the War of the Rodents in Britain. It's brutal stuff. It really is. I think the grey squirrels are going to win out in the end, though. Why do they take over in areas? Do they fight each other or something? I never really understood why.
I want to say
Pretty sure
they're
it's an
bigger and
economic thing.
faster and they shag more quickly, but I could be wrong. I think they just outcompete for food supplies is normally what happens.
It's just not enough nuts to go around for all of them.
Evidently not.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. We've learned something. Stephen DeLeon. Daredevil Reborn is hot garbage. Shout out to West Texas. Indeed. MauLer's probably going to agree with most of that sentiment there.
Well, I mean, out of interest, does anyone here feel their mind has changed on the show at all in the conversation the four of us had? Because as Platoon pointed out, all four of us had a different take on it.
Yeah. I'm still in the category of broadly liking it and cautiously optimistic, but I have reservations. And you've made me slightly more concerned.
I mean, from what I hear, it only gets better. So,
right.
I heard it only gets worse. So,
God, we can't even agree on this shit.
Oh boy.
Yeah. B-Takes, thoughts on Burn After Reading / Men Who Stare at Goats? You guys seen them?
I've seen Burn After Reading. I
I've
enjoy
seen
the
that
hell
one
out of it.
too. Yeah.
I've
Any
not
good?
seen The Men Who Stare at Goats, or I think I did, but I only got to see half of it for some reason, if I remember. So, yeah.
Burn After Reading was pretty good. I remember. It's been a long time though.
Something happens in that movie that was like so fucking shocking to me because I didn't know about it before it happened, if you know what I'm talking about. It's like memed everywhere. There's a moment that's like completely out of the fucking blue.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And, yeah, I remember seeing it without I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's great though.
It is
You
good.
got me intrigued now. Joke of all butts says, imagine being as foolish as to think this show can go anywhere but down, 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 deeper and down. Surely everyone knows that it'll suck by the end, right? I mean, no, not yet.
Well, it's worth giving it. I'm totally on board with giving it the chance. It's like I said, the first two chances have not gone well, but I'll keep giving it chances. Sure, it's my job, I suppose.
Yeah, I like this one when I accidentally brought Cynic in first. I thought MauLer just got unmasked Vader style. Avarith says, I managed to win a self-made bet that Brave New World would make between 350 to 400 million based on living with normies and asking if they knew of the movie. It's a pretty good benchmark for any of that stuff, yeah. But I think at this point, yeah, it's probably not going to make it to 400. So, yeah, that's pretty bad. Oh yeah, we did that one already. Sorry. And that one, in fact.
And that one.
And that one. Sorry. I'd been doing these like in a bit of an odd order, and I've obviously reached the point where I'd started doing them previously. What was the next one? That's it. James Moore. The next RoboCop game is coming out later this year, MauLer. It's called RoboCop Rogue City Unfinished Business.
I thought that was a DLC, which I'm obviously very interested, even if it is just a DLC. But if it's a full game, that'll be very exciting, yeah. But I will be playing that. The game was awesome. I very much recommend the RoboCop game.
It was good fun, yeah. Did you play through it multiple times to just see what the different endings look like at all?
No, I went through it the once, but I just enjoyed all of it. I just thought it's the kind of, it's like the people who made it obviously liked RoboCop, which is all I'm asking for, stuff like that. I'm like, yeah.
The glitches definitely made the cutscenes a lot more fun. When like you're trying to have a serious conversation and RoboCop is just like vibrating all over the screen because he's like clipping through the scenery and shit. It's like, okay, I'm fine with that. Muggy says, have you guys experienced the absolute cringe that is the live action Powerpuff Girls movie before it got taken down?
Yes. Have you seen that trailer?
I haven't. No.
It is.
People are talking
about
it.
No amount of anyone telling you it's bad will prepare you for how bad it is.
Really?
But it is getting taken down everywhere, so it can be tough to find. But there's plenty of copies. If you search for it, like on Twitter, you'll find someone who's got a tweet up of it. But yeah, it's basically like, I don't know if it's a finished trailer, but it's what that Powerpuff Girls TV show would have looked like, and it is fucking awful. Like, I'm channeling Disbrew here. I kind of wish they got to make it. I kind of wish we could have seen it.
And you didn't get the impression it was like intentionally awful, like self-aware cringe or anything. It's just
I
actual
don't think
cringe.
this is borderline. I would say it's like it's that bad. It's like no way they didn't know this was awful, right? And it's like, it's happened before.
Cool. I'll need to have a look. Social Morlock. Platoon, what happened to Ozki? I really enjoyed his and your work together. All the best and keep up the fantastic work.
Oh yeah,
Ozki.
no, he was a friend of mine. He actually started the channel with me way back in the day, in like the first attempt to launch it. And then he drifted off to do his own thing. He's still around. He's getting married this year. I have to go and be his best man. So I get to tell all of the horrible, mean stories that I've been building up for the last decade in order to make his future wife regret her decisions massively and then take joy in the realization on her face. But he's fine.
Nice. Oh,
Nice.
good. Senior Brightside says, MauLer, Rag says that it's unlikely Love and Thunder was a first date. I have a friend who was that anomaly. He loved it. She broke up with him.
No,
Brutal.
it'll do that.
I like this one. That Max fella says, if Daredevil hadn't taken the time to put on his suit before going to investigate the guy at Foggy's apartment, Foggy would probably still be alive. Hashtag change my mind. It probably does take a while to put that suit on as well. It's, these rubber suits, it's got to be
It's
a
an
pretty lengthy process.
interesting point considering he hears on the phone that the guy is being attacked. So you'd think he would dart from A to B rather from A to costume to B. Which, by the way, is a decision that I think is really interesting in superhero content when they address it. As in, like, do you go and get your secret identity or do you risk being found in order to save the life? But so much content will just skip it and be like, we don't want to deal with that right now. Shut up. He's got the costume.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bisected Tuscan Raider Child says the triple whammy of poor writing decisions in the first 15 minutes of Born Again, kill a fan favorite, kill Matt's code, and motherfucker a secret identity.
Well, yeah, you get that guy who's just like, Matt? And it's like, who the fuck are you? Like, what's his name? Cherry, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, Cherry. Yeah.
And it's like Cherry, the man he's been working with for so long, who is his trusted like PI post his retirement from the police. I remember just being like, what? Where's Mahoney? Where the fuck did he go? From what I hear, he's going to be in the series later. I'm just like, man, you've got characters that fill these roles. Why haven't you got them here? It's like because of the garbled way this show was created. You're like, okay, fine.
Question for everyone. From Cobra Blade. Has anyone seen the Shrek 5 teaser? It's got bad CGI, TikTok references, and everyone's favorite plank of wood, Zendaya. All it needs is a do better to be complete.
I saw images.
I've seen discussion over. I don't know how much time you want to spend on discussing Shrek 5. I don't know how important you consider this, but
very unimportant. Generally,
you're clearly invested. The thing I find interesting about it is just like I would just totally care as long as Shrek 5 is who's writing it. That's all I care about. There's a little teaser trailer for something that's not out until the end of next year. It's like it doesn't really mean much. And it's just did the people who made Shrek make this? Because a lot of people are saying like it's not going to be like the Shrek we like, and it's like probably not. No.
Just just don't go down the Toy Story route where it's like you've already told your story and told it well like 3 movies ago. You just keep trotting them out for making more money. It's sad, man. Retro Hail. Little Platoon is joining EFAP as a host. Cynic should join Open Bar and Az should join FNT. What a novel idea. Finally, Az could be part of FNT. This was following up on his post from earlier. 1933 also saw Invisible Man and the sequel Son of Kong released just 9 months after the first film, back when Hollywood had work ethic. Cheers. I mean, 9 months is a ridiculous turnaround for a movie. God knows how that was done, but Reno the Turk, can you redo all of the Lord of the Rings EFAPs with Platoon involved, please?
That's an easy job, isn't it, MauLer? That'll be really, really quick and simple to do. You won't have any trouble getting that past copyright.
Oh God, what a nightmare that was! But there'll be Lord of the Rings EFAPs in future. Like maybe this Nostalgia Critic video is particularly cringe, and we can check that out. It'll be great.
I'm going to finish up with this one because it's just so brutal. MauLer's like a dog that's been beaten too many times to trust humans anymore.
I mean, there's that aura of just like, oh, he hates it again. Does he? It's like, why do you guys always like ignore the stuff I like? I like plenty of things.
You don't like anything, admit it.
Fine. I am curious to see what the sentiment on Daredevil will be weeks, if not months from now, though. I wonder if the process will take place.
Yeah, do you think it's going to be a Fallout situation where everyone loves it initially, and then you're the lone voice of dissent?
I'm not.
And then
Plenty of people don't like it. From what I've heard, Disbrew is pretty unhappy with it. I know Platoon here wasn't exactly jazzed, so there's a few. Some people in chat don't seem that happy with it. So it's not like it's wowed everybody. There's a big old war on Twitter, people fighting over whether or not it's any good. I think it'll just be a matter of seeing how this story unfolds, because a lot of people do this with a lot of TV shows, which is totally fair, and that is, I'm going to hold out. I'm going to wait. I'm going to see how this story goes before I settle into any particular definitive sounding statements. But, like I said, I'm more than happy to have judged episode 1 and 2. I have seen them. If 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are all good, then fair enough.
I mean, I think if it's at least enough to keep people invested all the way till the end of the season, then it's at least part of the way there. If people are just like, no, fuck this, I'm tuning out right now because it's that bad. Like, okay, clearly it's failed. But like, you have to hope that they'll at least give it a chance for the rest of the season and then make their decision. But
sure,
we'll wait and see. But yeah, I know like Platoon, we only had you anyway till about 11, so I know you have to dash. And I will probably finish it up there in that case this evening. So it's a slightly shorter episode of Open Bar this evening, and I'm relatively sober by the end of it, which is definitely an unusual occurrence for this. But there you go, stranger things have happened. But don't worry, I will make up for it on the next one. But I will say, Cynic and Platoon, thank you for coming in for this evening, being our guests.
Thanks for having
me.
Yeah.
No, pleasure as always. And for everyone that's joined us this evening, thank you. We will catch up on any super chats that we've missed on last orders, although there's not too many this time because we did get through a good number of them this evening, which is again another rare occurrence. But thank you for sending them all in, and thank you to my mods as well for doing the great work that you guys always do. But that is all we've got for today. So go away now.
Bye.
Bye.